What if you could buy a business for pennies on the dollar and turn it into a cash flow machine? This is one of the most underrated wealth building strategies out there, and I have mastered it. In January of 23, I bought 3 failing franchises for $75,000 down that have made over $400,000 of profit in 2024. But here's the catch. It is risky if you don't know what you're doing. And in this video, I'm going to share my exact turnaround playbook, the strategies that I've used to build a multi-million-dollar franchise empire. So let's dive in. A franchise model is designed to be rinse and repeat. I started buying Midas auto repair franchises in 2016. And by 2023, we had 15 locations and knew the business very well. So a local franchisee came to me and he wanted out. He had 3 stores that were making about $100,000 combined. Now the seller set the price of $420,000, but we were able to set the terms, only putting down $75,000 plus making monthly payments of $6,250 for the next 5 years. So we did the deal and the clock starts ticking to get this thing turned around. On day 1, it's all about getting to know the team. Like, they're mostly a little frazzled because sellers don't want to tell anybody they're selling the business until the deal is finalized. So we do one-on-ones, we get to know the employees, and we start turning our process. By day 7, we're looking for some quick wins. Sellers normally leave a lot of deferred maintenance on the table. And in this case, half of the lights in the building were out. The mechanics had to wear like headlamps to see anything. So simple things like upgrading computers, painting, fixing broken equipment, replacing lights can go a long way because the smallest things can have huge impact on employee morale and really get people excited about the changes that are happening. Now, by day 14, we've had 2 weeks to assess our current team. We set new expectations and we want to see who's shining versus who's just collecting a paycheck. Now, every franchise is in the people business, and it's possible that they are great people that just had poor leadership, or it's possible that we have some bad apples that need to move on. By the end of the first month, we review our P&L with a fine-tooth comb, and we're to cut out anything that is not essential. And in our case, the seller was paying double for like internet and phone, fax machines, multiple subscriptions that we were able to cancel, found lower cost vendors. And by day 60, we're 2 months into this thing. We have pretty comfortable on the business. We've upgraded the low performers with higher performers. Our leadership personally trains everyone who's new, and we can get them up to speed very quickly. And by day 90, we're seeing results, right? Over 50% of sales growth in these stores. You can see here in this graph that we are making good progress, and we are blasting the local marketing to pour gasoline on the fire because we got in there and we fixed the problems. Now, fast forward to 2024, in just 11 months, these stores have made over $400,000 in profit this year alone, and we're just scratching the surface of what is possible. You may be asking, if these stores were so good, why did the seller fail at them? Well, there's a huge misconception in franchising that the thing just like runs itself. Like it's like you're buying an apartment building or whatever with some predetermined return on investment. But a franchise is different. What it does is provides a framework to run a business, but success is still 100% based on the individual owner's ability to execute, which means hiring great people, holding them accountable, having them follow this process. You nail your profits, your margins, you drive sales, right? Everything that has to do in running a business, the same thing applies to running a franchise, except the difference is like a franchise got some rules around it, some guardrails that we have to stick in, but it's all the same. And running a business is highly personal. And just because I'm successful at running these Midas shops does not mean that you would be good at running the same shops. Now, the goal in franchising, though, is to find a business that matches your skills and has challenges that you would enjoy solving. And a huge benefit to the franchise system is it's this like closed network, this closed community where over time, a lot of people get to know each other. And when franchisees want out and they want to sell, guess who do they go to first? Franchisees they already know, like, and trust and are in their network. And most franchises that are failing and underperforming are priced very aggressively. Sometimes you can buy these things for at or below startup costs because the sellers want to get out. Every franchisee has signed a contract when they buy the franchise, and they have an obligation to operate it. And when they want to get out, selling the business is normally the only option because they can't just shut it down without penalties. Plus, in a retail business like ours, you have leases that are personally guaranteed. And if the business is barely making money, then most banks aren't going to lend you money on it, which then leads to seller financing, where the seller of the business, the old franchisee becomes the bank. So you as the buyer are able to make a down payment, then make monthly payments, and you can get some really aggressive deals, some great terms. You can create these win-win scenarios. Like I've done seller financing deals buying existing franchises. I've acquired them for as low as like $25,000, $50,000 down. In this case, it was 3 stores, so we did $75,000. I did a whole video on seller financing that we'll link in the description below if you want to learn more about that. Now, some of these failing franchises take months, if not years, to get them turned around and profitable. I still have one I bought in 2021 that loses money every month. However, many of them are quick. Within 3 to 6 months, we've got them moving in the right direction. And sometimes the seller is giving up inches away from hitting diamonds. And as the buyer, I can come in with fresh energy and break right through. So the big question is, should you buy a failing franchise if it's your first one? No, do not do that. Taking on a failing location is like trying to swim in the ocean during the middle of a storm. Like you were still learning the basics while trying to identify like the issues of why this thing is failing. Then once you figure out the issues, you need to fix the problem, but you have no experience in executing the systems to fix the problem. And you're taking on a lot of risk, a lot of debt, a lot on your shoulders to start. So if you're just getting started in your first franchise, buy a stable existing franchise, like something that's already making money, or start something from scratch where you can learn everything to do it the right way. You have a fresh slate. You're not inheriting problems or inheriting a store that loses money or whatever it is. So learn how to operate it, learn how to make money, develop your people, like take it step by step. And then once you've been in the game for a while, then you can look at doing these failing locations. Because you're going to be able to know right away, hey, this is a people problem. And then you've got other people over here at your other locations or territories, and you can transfer somebody, you can promote somebody, you can do it internally day one. Maybe it's a marketing problem and you've got cash flow. You can drop 10,000 direct mail pieces. You know it's going to work. You know where to hit them because you've been doing this for, years. Or maybe the business you're buying is bleeding cash. That has happened to me many times, but because I run a larger business, I have profitable stores that can kind of weather that storm while we get these things profitable. But buying a failing business, not knowing what you're doing, is like catching a falling knife. And maybe you can catch it on the handle, maybe, or it slices your hand, or even worse. There are many terrible franchises out there. Brands that are on the decline, owned by people who are desperate. They may be willing to sell you the business for $1 in order to get out of an expensive lease, personal liabilities, whatever the issue is. So don't force a deal just because it looks appealing. Don't force it just because it has a low price. You really need to dig into it. And if it's your first one, do not buy a failing franchise. Now, here is my process to analyze an opportunity. The first thing I'm going to look at is the location. How does this new acquisition fit in within my current footprint of franchises? I'm going to be way more interested if it's something that fits in nicely versus if it's 1 or 2 hours away from my core business. Proximity of territories, locations, businesses gives you a lot of leverage with marketing, vendors, your people, customers, and a whole lot more. Then I'm going to look at the demographics, like what's the income level? How does this match up to my other well-performing locations? If you're buying a legacy brand like Midas or Subway or something that's been around for many years, it's possible that the location was approved 10 or 20 years ago, but since then, neighborhoods have changed. People have moved away, incomes have dropped, traffic patterns have shifted. And today, that franchisor may have state-of-the-art technology designed to figure out what are the best possible territories. And they may say, this location might have worked, 10 or 20 years ago, but today, is it still viable? Is it still going to be successful? For example, in the Midas business, we need high traffic retail locations. We're often next to like a KFC, a Taco Bell, right? Something with a lot of drive-by traffic. And many years ago, a few franchisees had the genius idea to open up in industrial parks. The theory sounded great. We're going to have these huge shops, we'll have cheap rent, tons of parking. People are going to find us online. They're going to drive to us. We're going to become a destination. And at the time, Midas approved these sites, willing to give this new idea a shot, right? It all made sense on the outside. But these locations failed after a few years and they went up for sale. I passed on them since they didn't fit our proven retail location model. An unsuspecting buyer, though, took him over. And guess what happened? He closed a few years later. You really want to look into the location, make sure it fits the model. Then what I'm going to do is look at the seller. Does this seller seem like to be a great operator, average, or is he a complete dud? And consider these two scenarios. Let's say we have a multi-unit operator, someone like me, ton of locations, very successful, and I'm selling off a single unit. versus someone who owns a single unit. They're part-time in the business. They don't really understand what's going on, and they have stripped the business to the bare bones, right? I'd be a lot more cautious buying, from me, a successful location, stripping off one location, than I would the disengaged person who hasn't, there's a lot of low-hanging fruits over there. For me, successful operator, stripping off location, you want to dig in to figure out why that location, why isn't that one working? There's a bunch of reasons why. It could be at the edge of the empire. We could be moving in a new direction. We could be cursed. You never know what it is. And finally, what about a single store operator who's very successful and retiring, right? Not failing, profitable. We're looking to buy it, and we are going to place a manager in that store, but he probably won't be as good as that owner. And we have to consider the risk of sales dropping, at least for a period of time, until we get it back to that level. Now, for me, the best deals are the ones that have great locations. They fit right in my footprint, and they have a bad, disengaged owner that we can get some quick wins right away. And you can make a killing turning around failing franchises, but just be very cautious if you are new. There are many ones out there that you shouldn't be touching with a 10-foot pole. If you have any questions about buying a franchise, drop them in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.